Today's child safety topic with Firefly Community Partners for Child Safety. This month we are talking about winter and fire safety, two important safety topics to consider definitely this month and throughout the rest of the winter season. All right, so first we're going to talk a little bit more about keeping kiddos safe when they go outside to play during these cold, wintry months. There's a lot of important things we need to consider and think about as it relates to that. One of the things we want to make sure we're always keeping a mind of is where children are choosing to play. We want to make sure they're not playing in the streets, but if they are choosing to, whether it's a residential or more high traffic area, we want to make sure they are definitely staying out of the streets, especially during those wintry months. Sometimes during the wintry months, we'll have snowbanks, lots of ice, things like that, and visibility can definitely be impacted, and cars' ability to stop as quickly as they are when there is not inclement weather happening can be something that we need to be mindful of as well. Be aware of clothing hazards as well. Scarves and hoods and different things like that could potentially provide a choking hazard, and we want to be thinking about those things. Check in on their warmth. Before kids head outside, make sure that if they start to feel super cold, or if they've been playing in the snow or what have you, and they become wet, we need to be making sure we're changing those socks, changing those shoes, changing those gloves, things like that. So definitely continuous checking in on if they are still being protected by that protective gear of hats, gloves, etc. We also want to be mindful of the fact that even though it's winter and we have less sunny days and less daylight hours, the sun is something important we need to still protect our skin, our eyes, etc. from. So it's still a good idea on those really sunny days to think about wearing, whether it be sunscreen, sunglasses, etc., to be thinking about sun protection. Another thing we want to be thinking about is fire safety in terms of bonfires, any kind of fires that might happen outside, wood burning stoves, outdoor fire pits. Those can be a potential danger for kiddos, so always be monitoring children around those things. Also, we want to make sure that if children are deciding to go sledding or doing any of those type of activities, in some areas, families may choose to go out on the four-wheelers or what have you. Even deciding on the more warmer days to go biking, make sure we're still practicing those important tips like wearing helmets and things like that. And then in the winter months, we do see a high ponderance of nosebleeds with the air being especially dry, with heaters being ran in homes and in buildings. So if a child does experience those winter nosebleeds, we can use humidifiers and saline nose drops to help prevent those from happening. All year round, it's so important to also stay hydrated. That drier winter air, both outside and the air inside our homes when the heat is running, can be a drier air, and it could lead to scratchy throats and irritation and things like that. We are also in the throes of cold and flu season, so we can be thinking about soups, not super hot, but hot drinks like cocoa and things like that. If a child has been playing outside, we want to be mindful of what signs of frostbite and hypothermia and things like that look like. Frostbite, it can be pale or gray, blistered skin. If we think the child has frostbite, bring them in and put the affected area in warm, not hot water. If we think someone's experiencing hypothermia, that could be signs of shivering, slurred speech, unusual clumsiness. If we think someone has hypothermia, we need to be calling for emergency response right away. Here's a photo that tells us a little bit more about what stages of frostbite look like. So a mild frostbite would be redness and cold and numbness in the extremities. Superficial frostbite, the skin might feel warm. We will begin to see fluid-filled blisters anywhere between 24 to 36 hours after rewarming that skin. Severe frostbite, deep frostbite, this is the deadening of the skin. we will get numbness, joints, muscles may no longer work. We will see large blisters in that 24 to 48 hour time frame, and those areas will begin to turn black and hard. So initially, if someone, we want to have everyone, kids, adults, etc., be noticing if their skin is feeling prickly, if they're starting to have numbness to their extremities, their skin is becoming hard or waxy. So something to think of as it relates to that. So with all that, it's so important that we be thinking about how we're dressing our kiddos. We don't want to just look at the temperature and say, oh, the high today is XYZ. We want to be thinking about what time does my child go to recess? What hours of the day are my kiddos walking to and from school, the bus stop, etc. And we want to make sure our child has proper clothing for those times of the day that they will be outside. For our older kiddos, I would say middle school and up, you may have them argue about wearing these proper items, but we can encourage them to take the items with them, and then they at least have them accessible to them to put on when they realize, oh yeah, I'm out here at recess and it's cold. But for our littles, it's really important that we just make sure that they are properly dressed. Like I said before, not just thinking about, oh, the high today is whatever, but thinking about those times of day where that child will be outside. So when we think about our infants and children, we want to always make sure we're bundling them up. Several thin layers will keep them dry and warm. Always remember boots, gloves, mittens, hat. Rule of thumb for our babies and young children is to dress them in one more layer of clothing than an adult would wear in those same conditions. Be mindful of car riding. So we want kiddos to wear thin, snug layers rather than that thick, bulky coat. And we'll kind of look at that in a moment. Blankets, quilts, pillows, things like that should be kept out of a baby's bedding. So just because it's colder months, we need to still be mindful of those safe sleep practices. Sleep sack is a wonderful way to keep a baby warm, and dressing them in those layers as well. So please, please, please do not, make sure families do know that it's not okay to be putting all those blankets and things in their cribs just because it's cold. Another little quick reminder from Safe Kids Worldwide about winter coats and car seats. We can take the coat off of the child and kind of put it on them after they've been buckled in, as almost like a putting it on them backwards. They can wear those fleecy jackets that aren't as puffy, and that can keep the child warm in the car as well. But we do not want to have the big puffy coat because that does not allow for that secure, snug fit to keep that child safe and sound in their car seat. So we want to be mindful of that. Strap before you wrap is a great thing to keep in mind. And definitely putting the child in the seat and then kind of draping the coat over the child for warmth. Dressing for cold weather, these are some additional tips to consider. So if it's chilly outside, so we're thinking, 40 degrees in the around 40 degrees, sorry. We would call that chilly, between the 40 degrees to 60 degrees. 1 to 2 layers, a outer layer of a jacket or something like that to keep them warm. Warm shoes, waterproof is always a good thing to do. When we get 40 degrees and under, we want to be thinking about that's cold weather. And we want to be dressing in definitely a few layers, a warmer coat. If there's snow or anything like that on the ground, boots are really the way to go. A warm hat, gloves, etc. If we are below freezing, and keep in mind wind chill and all those various factors, real feel, wind chill, however your weather app describes it, we want to definitely wear multiple layers and definitely have that nice thick warm coat, those hats, those gloves, etc. So, like I said before, make sure you're always checking that weather and also checking for that real feel / wind chill. That's going to be telling you exactly how cold it truly is outside. And we cannot just solely rely on, the high temp for the day or the low temp. Playing outside in temperatures or wind chills below -15 should be avoided. At these temperatures, exposed skin begins to freeze within minutes. So we want to make sure, like I said before, we're following those tips about how to dress for those various forms of weather. And if children are getting wet, because mittens and things like that will quickly get wet as they're playing outside in snow. Make sure they're changing out of those right away and coming in to swap out for a fresh dry pair, etc. And make sure they're taking lots of breaks. Kids do love to play in the snow. Many kids do, and they can have a lot of fun out there. But we want to make sure they're taking those breaks, that they're staying safe, they're staying dry, they're staying warm. Um, this photo, you can kind of see the Firefly logo kind of goes, hides it, but it says danger, thin ice, keep off pond. We want to make sure we're conveying to children and even our teens that it's just never a good idea and it's never safe to go onto any body of water where it looks like it's frozen. We cannot trust how deep or how strong the ice is frozen. We definitely run into some water safety concerns and hazards with that. So it's really important that kiddos stay off of ponds, out of creeks, out of rivers, and things like that. It can be very enticing to kiddos, but the reality is it's just not safe. It's a very dangerous thing if the child were to fall in and fall through the ice. So make sure that they know not to be ever playing on the ice over frozen bodies of water. We also just want to be mindful of that they can definitely play outside and have fun making snow angels, snowmen, things like that, but we want to avoid snowball fights. That maybe sounds like I'm being a party pooper, but especially if we're having those, we want to avoid and understand and know that it's never okay to throw the snowball at people's faces, things like that. Sometimes, unfortunately, those things could have like hidden rocks or hidden ice in them too. It can be very dangerous. We always want them to stay away from the roads, fences, water, etc. Um, we want them to be extra, like I said, precautious around roads. Um, Also, if families are traveling, make sure they're giving their cars ample time to warm up so they have a good view from their vehicle, giving themselves extra time to travel. As it relates, like I said before, about snowballs, make sure kiddos know don't ever throw snowballs at cars or at people. They can definitely play with throwing them at trees or something like that. You see here the infamous scene from Christmas Story where the boy puts his tongue on the flagpole. Um, that is kind of a funny, memorable scene from the Christmas Story, but the reality is they could really hurt their tongue and really find themselves in a not so great situation if children decide to do that. So making sure that they don't do those kinds of things. They may decide to build forts or tunnels, but we want to make sure that they're being extra careful because that could like collapse on them. Uh, we also don't want them, like I said, to ever put their tongue or any body part on a frozen metal pole or something like that. And really, I know as much as we can make snow ice cream and all that, we want to really think about what snow we're eating. If we choose to eat it, it could definitely be dirty or contaminated. So those are some important tips about how to let kids enjoy the winter weather, but still keep it safe and keep themselves healthy and strong. The other thing we really want to definitely talk about as it relates to the month of January and these winter cold months is winter home safety and fire safety too. One of those key things is, and it's available in your safety store, we have carbon monoxide detectors. We have our smoke detectors. We have our little fire spray. So make sure to be thinking about ways to be talking about fire safety with families and that they're, doing these important tips that I'm going to be talking about in this next little bit of today's or this month's training. So, power outages absolutely happen. They've been happening in our local community here and there. I just heard of a local child care center that had to close up early and call all the parents to come get their kiddos because they had lost power. With all the construction, there's so many different reasons why an organization or a home might lose power. So, we want to be prepared for that in the colder months. So, we want to have a go-to bag in case we need to leave our home in a hurry. Think in advance about things we might need, such as medication, formula, clothing, diapers, flashlights, things like that. A charger to keep your device charged whenever you can get access to power. Think about where you could go if your home was to lose power. Um, we can think about neighborhood warming centers and things like that. When it's super cold out, we want to make sure every family has carbon monoxide detectors in their homes. It should be battery powered, not electronic powered, or have a battery backup. This will help wake us up if carbon monoxide levels do rise and cause that alarm to sound. So if we are utilizing generators to warm our homes or as a backup for power, remember that they need a source of fuel. And if we use gasoline, um, gasoline pumps may not be running or something like that. So they want to make sure that they're, have some gasoline on hand. Sometimes permanently installed house generators will run on natural gas or propane. But they can cost thousands of dollars to purchase, maintain, etc. These have to be in a well ventilated area because they will give off exhaust and things like that. They're very loud, so be mindful of the noise pollution too that they give off. But those are important things to keep in mind. As it relates to carbon monoxide sources in our home, there are several. So it's so important that and it's a like silent but deadly gas that could end up in our home. And so that's why it's so important that folks have those alarms in their homes. So clogged chimney, blocked chimney, gas or wood burning fireplaces, are operating barbecue grills in areas or having a car running in a garage. If the refrigerator is a gas refrigerator or any appliance is a gas appliance and it's improperly installed. So those are things that could definitely lead to carbon monoxide leaks or poisoning. If we repurpose our car, stove, barbecue to generate heat, because sometimes that's what families will decide to do, remember that it can produce high amounts of carbon monoxide in our home. This is from the U.S. Fire Administration. So what we know is during the months of December, January, and February, half of all of home heating fires are occurring during these months. We want to be mindful of space heaters and safety around those. We only want one heat producing appliance into an electrical outlet at a time, and we want to keep everything at least 3 feet away from the space heater, and because that will help keep our home safe as well. Every time we go to sleep, we want to make sure that our space heater turns off. Some of them do have natural timers that will set off those. We can't always 100% rely on that. Always make sure they're on a level, hard, non-flammable surface as well. Cooking is another fire safety thing that we need to be mindful of. 49% of home fires between 2014 and 2018 were caused by cooking. 21% of the house fire fatalities and 44% of the injuries were from cooking. So on average, cooking causes a house fire every 3 minutes in the United States. So what we want folks to know is the best fire is the one that just simply doesn't happen. So here are some fire prevention tips. We want every home to have a fire extinguisher. We love the ones that are available in our safety store because they are extremely easy to use. There are lots of different fire extinguishers out there. Some have pins you have to pull and that they can be really complicated and difficult to utilize. The ones that we keep in the safety store are just quick, almost like using a can of cooking spray or hairspray or something like that. They are very easy to use. We want children to know the basics of fire safety and how to prevent fires. We want to keep all forms of starting fires like matches, lighters, etc., away from children at all times. They are very curious and they often are fascinated by fire and flames and things like that. Keep anything flammable at least 3 feet away from anything hot. Only smoke outside because we see some home fires happening as a result of cigarette ash and things like that. Always be in the kitchen while cooking, especially on our gas stoves and things like that. Something could easily fall over or something like that onto the gas stove and a fire could happen, or a range could accidentally get turned on, and if something's laying on top of that stove, like a towel or something, that could easily catch fire. Make sure to always completely put out any fire that we purposely start, whether it be a fire pit or what have you. If we live in dry climates, which we do not here, but dry climates, we need to be mindful of. There are different time of the years. We definitely have drier times, right? And we want to be mindful of that with how sparks could land outside of the fire pit or whatnot and start fires as well. Many of us like to burn candles. They smell really good. They can give that like peaceful ambiance, but we need to keep those out of reach for children. Keep those matches and lighters high up and out of reach of kiddos. We can use flameless rather than lighted candles, but even those, like the wax burners and things like that, can be a potential or burn hazard for kiddos. And as people are getting rid of their Christmas trees and Christmas decor and things like that, be mindful of those burn hazards too. This is a kind of a grainy photo, but it shows a little toddler near a fire. We definitely want to keep them away with partitions. Definitely keep them to where they can. Even the gas fireplaces. The outside piece could become very hot to the physical touch. So we want to really make sure we're supervising kiddos around those fires and keeping them away from them as much as we can. Like this image shows a like a partition, if you will. So we want to be doing that. So a screen or something like that. Never leave candles or fireplaces burning unattended. Never leave them going while we're asleep. And then check and inspect chimneys and exhaust pipes at least once a year. This is a quick little fire safety checklist from Safe Kids Worldwide about safety tips in the kitchen. So some examples, I won't read every single one, are things that can burn, such as dish towels, curtains, paper away from the stovetop. Our pot handles turned toward the back of the stove when grown-ups are cooking. Do children and pets stay out of the kid-free zone while the grown-up is cooking? Do we have working smoke alarms? Do we have a practice plan? Do we have an escape plan? Another thing we want to be thinking about is, and with that practice plan, practicing it, on an ongoing basis, having our safe meetup spot outside if our home was to ever catch on fire. And remember, our lives are so much important than like our physical things. So it's the most important thing is to get out of a burning, if our house is on fire, and that they know that the stop, drop, and roll, how to crawl to get to safety, and all those important safety tips. Burns and scalds are another thing we want to quickly cover as it relates to fire safety. We want to make sure that we know and understand that burns, and it's not just fire, but they could also be water scalding, burn safe scaldings, are some of the 10 leading causes of unintentional injury of kiddos 0 to 5. Every day, 300 children ages 0 to 19 are treated in emergency departments for burn-related emergencies. So, I already talked about it, but those kid-free zones are so important, right? We want to just make sure the stove is a kid-free zone. If we are being really intentional and really being really hands-on with our kiddos, I would argue 10 and up, we can do highly supervised cooking family activities, but it has to be highly supervised. We want to keep all those hot objects out of the kiddos' reach. We can get oven knob locks. We can get oven locks. Those are both available in our safety store. And we want to make sure we're using pot holders, things like that, and keeping the handles turned inward. Keep hot foods and drinks away from the edge of counters and tables as well. We can definitely teach our older kids to cook safely, as I said before, and how to use microwaves and all the things. Newer microwaves are even putting a lock feature on it, so when the microwave's finished cooking, you have to literally push an unlock button to get the hot item out of there, which is a safer measure. Another thing we need to make sure we do is check bath water. Water can be hot. Even some homes have the water hot on the bathroom sink or the kitchen sink and things like that. So be really mindful of that. We have the baby bath thermometers that are available as well in the safety store, so we're not having hot scalding water. And we have the faucet covers that look like dolphins as well, that are additional kind of water safety / burn safety tools in your safety store. This is a home fire prevention checklist. We will look into seeing if we can get copies of these and added to all of your various safety stores if would be interested. There are some general safety topics: bedrooms, laundry room, and chimneys, all important areas of the home to begin thinking about fire safety prevention. So in general, every level of home has working smoke detectors and has a battery backup, and we're checking those batteries. And when it starts to beep, we're gonna get another 9-volt battery or whatever and switch that out so they are working. We want working fire extinguishers on every level of the home as well. We want to make sure electrical cords don't run under carpets and aren't pressed against walls or beds. All cords are not frayed and in good working condition. We don't want our extension cords and outlets overloaded. And all appliances are certified in good working condition and have not been recalled. Um, if you have folks on a second floor thinking about getting an escape ladder to be able to, and everybody in the home knows how to use that if needed. There are these stickers. I have not seen them in a long time, but they probably are available on Amazon. You can even put those stickers on the outside of the bedrooms of children, so that helps assist the firefighters when they arrive to the home if needed to know that children live in the home. Cleaning out those lint traps for the dryers, and that's an important thing, and making sure we're doing those chimney inspections. So if a family does have a fire, do they know what to do? So stay calm, get low because smoke rises, get others out if we can, and absolutely call 911. We want to, if it's a small fire and it hasn't yet gotten out of control, we can try to put it out with our extinguisher or something like that. But if it does just become overburdensome, at that point we shift gears to getting everyone out. Everything can be replaced except for our life. If we remember nothing else from this, remember those 4 steps from above, and the important thing is to get out. So here are those resources. Cold weather safety from Brighter Futures Indiana, winter safety from Caring for Kids. Save Kids Worldwide has a lot of really great safety tips. So many great resource tips. You have some as well in your safety store with those Riley safety store sheets. If you have any additional questions or concerns about any of these topics we've talked about today, do not hesitate to reach out and follow up with us. We're always happy to help you keep families happy, healthy, and strong. Thank you so much for tuning in this month, and we'll see you next time.